You're not really applying for a loan, are you? The young teller smirked, barely hiding his amusement. The older man in front of him, mid-60s, grey crew cut, weathered Patriots hoodie, stared back silently, hands folded over a manila folder. He had the calm stillness of someone who had weathered much worse than sarcasm. "Sir, look," the teller said, leaning forward, lowering his voice. "I'm not trying to be rude, but you've got maybe a couple thousand in your checking account. No steady income reported since 2019, and you're asking for a business loan." A quiet beat. The man didn't flinch. Behind him, the fluorescent lights buzzed, the cold Vermont morning bleeding into the lobby through the tall windows. The teller sighed and leaned back. "You can wait for my manager if you want, but he'll say the same thing." From the leather chairs nearby, a younger woman in a sharp pantsuit looked up from her phone, smirking. She had been watching it all unfold. "Maybe you should try a GoFundMe," she muttered. The man finally spoke. "I coached for 37 years, he said quietly. "High school?" the teller offered, half mocking. The man shook his head once. "No." The teller rolled his eyes and turned back to his screen. "Right. Well, whatever it was, banks care about numbers, credit, income, not nostalgia." "I understand." He turned and walked away, slow and deliberate, not embarrassed, not angry, just tired. He took a seat in the far corner of the waiting room, folder still in hand, staring out the window as sleet began to hit the glass. The woman in the pantsuit chuckled again and returned to her scrolling. "Guy looks like he just wandered in from the high school gym." What none of them recognized, what not a single person in the bank seemed to know, was who that man actually was. They didn't see the dozens of framed game balls in his attic, the championship rings tucked away in a sock drawer, or the handwritten letters from players, some now household names, thanking him for saving their lives, not just their careers. And more than anything, they didn't know what was about to happen next. A gust of cold wind burst through the lobby as the glass doors opened. A man in his 40s strode in wearing a black hoodie, aviator sunglasses and a trimmed beard. Despite the freezing weather, he looked perfectly composed. People turned. His presence shifted the energy in the room immediately. He looked around, scanning, until his eyes landed on the older man in the corner. "Coach?" he said, his voice loud and clear. The older man stood slowly. "Tom." Now the room really turned. The woman in the pantsuit dropped her phone. The teller stood frozen. Tom Brady walked across the lobby and wrapped his former coach in a hug, like a long-lost father. "I heard what happened," Tom said, stepping back. "You shouldn't be here doing this alone." Coach sighed, shaking his head. "Didn't want to bother anyone." "Too late," Brady smiled. "I'm here." Silence stretched across the room like tension before a snap. The teller's jaw moved, but no words came out. The woman in the pantsuit blinked as if trying to reboot her brain. Tom turned, scanning the stunned staff. "Which one of you told Coach he wasn't good enough for a loan?" No one answered. Coach placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "It's fine. Let it go." Tom didn't. Want to know what happens next, and how Coach changes every life in that room? Stick around, and if this story's already got your heart, subscribe and leave a comment. The next part's just getting started. Tom Brady's voice had weight, one of those rare tones that didn't need to be raised to command attention. He looked directly at the bank manager now, who had finally emerged from his office, clearly having caught wind of the commotion. "I'm here to co-sign," Tom said, still standing beside his former coach. The manager, a balding man in a tight tie and khaki slacks, looked like he wanted to disappear. "Mr. Brady, I didn't realize—" "You didn't realize you were dealing with someone who built champions," Tom said. "But you're not alone. A lot of people forget the ones who made them." Coach cleared his throat softly. "Tom, it's okay. I wasn't going to qualify anyway." "Yeah, well, we're not doing that anymore," Tom replied. "You helped hundreds of guys get their shot. Now it's yours." Coach looked at him, eyes slightly glassy. "I just wanted to open a training facility, not for profit. A place for kids whose parents can't afford the elite camps. A gym where kids get coached the right way, not yelled at or ignored." The manager's voice returned meekly. We can revisit the application, of course, if Mr. Brady is co-signing. Tom cut him off with a glance. Don't of course me. This man should have been treated with respect from the second he walked in that door. Not because of who he coached, because of who he is. The teller and the woman in the pantsuit shifted uncomfortably. Coach seemed unsure whether to stay or walk out. Come on, Tom said, nodding toward the conference room. Let's go make it official. As the two of them walked away, the waiting room buzzed with disbelief. Phones emerged. Whispers floated. It wasn't every day a living legend showed up in your small-town bank. But what stuck most wasn't Tom Brady's fame. It was the way he stood behind someone everyone else had written off. Inside the glass conference room, Coach slowly opened the manila folder and slid the documents forward. Tom glanced through them, then looked up. You always believed in us, he said. Even when we didn't. Coach smiled. That was my job. No, Tom said. That was your calling. Coach looked out through the glass toward the lobby, where the teller and manager awkwardly tried to look busy. He leaned back in his chair, suddenly lighter. I almost walked away from the whole idea, he admitted. Didn't want to be a charity case. Tom chuckled. This isn't charity. It's a return on investment. A few minutes later, papers were signed. The loan was approved. The bank manager tried to smile and shake hands, but Coach offered only a polite nod. As Tom and Coach stepped out of the office, the lobby had gone quiet again. The woman in the pantsuit avoided eye contact. The teller stared down at his desk. Coach stopped near the exit and turned around. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't gloat, but he spoke clearly. And next time someone walks in with a dream, maybe start by listening. And with that he left, flanked by a quarterback who owed him everything and a silence that said more than any apology could. Outside, the wind had softened. The sleet had turned to light snow, falling over the sidewalk in slow, quiet patterns. Tom and Coach stood near the curb. No cameras, no crowd. Just two men and 30 years of unspoken gratitude between them. You really think people will come? Coach asked. Tom smiled. Coach, they don't know it yet, but they need you more than ever. Coach nodded, his breath visible in the cold air. Then let's get to work. 2 months later, the old rec center on the edge of Brockton, Massachusetts had come back to life. The walls still bore some of their original scuffs, but the floors were sanded, the mirrors replaced, and a full rack of donated weights gleamed in the back corner. Most of the equipment had been pieced together with help from former players, some now in the NFL, others working regular jobs but eager to give back. A small white banner hung above the entrance, the grindhouse where work beats talent. It was Coach's old motto. He never yelled it, just wrote it at the top of every clipboard before practice. On a Tuesday afternoon, the place was buzzing. A group of high school kids rotated through drills. Cones, resistance sprints, balance ladders. Sweat poured from their foreheads. Their shoes squeaked against the polished wood. Coach stood off to the side, arms crossed, stopwatch in hand. He didn't bark orders. He didn't try to impress anyone. Instead, he gave quiet feedback. Don't swing your arms so wide, Marcus. Stay grounded. Or, good drive, Sasha, but finish through the cone, not at it. These kids weren't stars. Not yet. But they were showing up. One of them, a skinny sophomore named Eli, stumbled on his third sprint, hitting the turf hard. The gym fell silent for a beat. Coach walked over and held out a hand. You hurt? No, sir, Eli muttered, brushing dirt from his shirt. You embarrassed? Eli hesitated. Yeah, Coach nodded. Good. Means it matters to you. Now line it up again. Eli looked stunned. Then slowly, he jogged back to the line. Maria, the bank teller, stood by the door holding a tray of waters and granola bars. She had volunteered to help on her days off. Watching Coach work with the kids had changed something in her. The way he saw them, without judgment, without assumption, was the way she wished she had been seen. She waved Coach over during a break. They're improving fast. You seeing it? Coach sipped his coffee. They're buying in, that's what matters. I still feel awful about what happened at the bank, she said, voice quiet. Coach shrugged. Don't. You weren't the one deciding who mattered. Maria looked out at the sweating kids. Well, you're showing all of us. He gave her a soft nod. Later that day, the front door opened again. This time, it wasn't a kid or a volunteer. It was the bank manager. Coach saw him immediately. A flicker of tension crossed his face. The manager walked slowly, hands in his coat pockets, and stopped just short of the weight benches. "I came to say thank you," he said. Coach didn't answer. "For the reminder," the manager added. "That value doesn't wear a suit." Coach folded his arms. "You didn't come here to work out, did you?" The man shook his head. "No, sir." "Then next time, wait outside until the drills are done." The manager blinked, unsure if it was a joke. It wasn't. Coach turned back to the kids. "Water break's over. Get your minds right." As the drills resumed, the manager quietly stepped back toward the door. Maria gave him a knowing look. Coach didn't need a public apology. He wasn't chasing redemption. He was building something real, one sprint, one kid, one quiet moment at a time. Outside, the snow had finally melted. Spring was teasing its arrival. Inside, the grind had just begun. Coach stood in the back office of the grindhouse, a narrow converted storage room with a cracked window and a single metal desk. The walls were lined with clipboard charts and old photographs, some black and white, others just faded from sun. On the desk lay a stack of letters, handwritten, some from former players, some from kids who'd only met him once, and some from parents, thanking him for keeping their kids off the street. But that morning, one letter stood out. It was postmarked from Tampa. "Coach, you always said it's not about how you start, but what you do on 3rd and long. This gym, this whole thing, it's 3rd and long, and you're converting. TB12. Coach let the letter rest in his hands for a moment, before folding it carefully and sliding it into the bottom drawer. He didn't need to show anyone. He just needed to know it had been written. At 4 p.m. sharp, the doors swung open. The kids poured in, some still in school clothes, others in gym shorts, a few limping from yesterday's drills. They came anyway. They always came. Marcus slapped the doorframe as he entered. "Coach, can we run one-on-ones today?" "No pads, no contact," Coach replied, "but we can simulate reads." Eli jogged over, earbuds still dangling. "Coach, I got my 40 down to 4.8. Coach raised an eyebrow. "You sure that stopwatch isn't stuck?" The kids laughed. So did Coach. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like something. These weren't athletes yet, not by the world's definition, but they were becoming. Halfway through the session, a new kid showed up. Tall, hesitant, no duffel bag, just gym shoes and a hoodie. Coach walked over. "You here to watch or work?" The kid glanced around, unsure. "I don't know, my cousin said I should check it out." Coach nodded once. "Name?" "Jalen." "Well, Jalen," Coach said, tossing him a jump rope, "start here." By the end of the hour, Jalen was drenched and red-faced, but he'd stayed, not a word of complaint. "You come back tomorrow," Coach told him. "Bring better shoes," Jalen grinned. "Yes, sir." Later that night, as Coach shut off the lights, Maria approached with a clipboard. "We've got 47 kids registered now. We're almost at capacity." Coach stared out at the dark gym, his voice low. "That was never supposed to happen." "What? Success?" she asked. "No," he said, "running out of room." She smiled. "We'll find a way." "You always do." The next morning brought unexpected news. A city rep showed up unannounced, holding a file and a practiced smile. "Just a routine inspection," he said. "Noise complaints, zoning questions, usage capacity." Coach listened, stone-faced. "Who sent you?" The man shrugged. "That's above my pay grade." But Coach already knew. Some people didn't like seeing the old gym succeed. Didn't like seeing the forgotten corner of town filled with noise and sweat and ambition. Coach didn't argue. He nodded through the forms, signed where needed. But that night, he met with Maria after the kids had left. "They're going to try and shut us down," she said. Coach didn't flinch. "Let them try." "You're not worried?" "I've played defense my whole life," Coach replied. "Now it's time to go on offense." He reached for his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Danny," he said when the voice picked up, "I need a favor. Actually, I need a whole damn team." The grindhouse was packed tighter than it had ever been. News had spread. What began as whispers became a movement. First, the local paper wrote a piece, then came the regional news. Then a 2-minute segment on ESPN, voiced over by Danny Michaels himself. A former quarterback coach, long forgotten by the game he helped shape, is now changing lives in a gym with no air conditioning and more heart than money. The city inspector didn't come back. Not after the fire marshal approved every inch of the building, and not after the mayor posted a picture with Coach on Facebook, thanking him for reviving discipline and purpose in our youth. But today was more than press. Today was tryout day. Colleges had sent scouts, not just for scholarships, but to watch a new generation of talent that wasn't coming from prep schools or private training academies. They were coming from Coach, kids who'd never worn matching cleats, who stretched on wrestling mats instead of turf, who ran drills in hoodies their parents couldn't afford to replace. Eli stood at the edge of the track, nerves bubbling in his stomach. "Are you ready?" Coach asked. Eli nodded but didn't speak. "Don't run for them," Coach said. "Run for the kid who fell 3 months ago and got back up." Eli looked at him, breathing steady. Then he ran, fast, clean. The stopwatch beeped. 4:62. Coach didn't smile big, just enough. One by one, the kids went. Sasha, Marcus, Jalen, who'd shown up every day since his first, shoes now taped at the sole. Scouts nodded, took notes. A few made calls. By the end of the day, 3 kids had been pulled aside. Full ride offers. Others got interest. Some just got the fire lit under them. But everyone walked out taller. Later that night, Coach sat on the back steps of the building. The sun was setting, golden light bleeding through bare tree limbs. Tom Brady called. Again. "Don't tell me," Coach said, answering. "You're retiring again." Tom laughed. "No, but I saw the footage and I've got a question." "Shoot. You ever think about expanding? We've got space in Tampa, Miami, even Austin. You could run programs, mentor coaches." Coach rubbed his temple. "I'm not building a chain." Tom's voice softened. "Then let me help you make this one bulletproof." A pause. Coach looked out at the street where Eli and Marcus were tossing a ball in the fading light. "All right," he said, "but only if it stays about the kids." "It always was," Tom replied. After the call, Coach stepped back inside. Maria was wiping down benches. She looked up and smiled. "We're not going anywhere, are we?" she asked. Coach shook his head. "No. We're just getting started." On the wall near the entrance, someone had pinned up a new photo. It was Coach, arms crossed, whistle around his neck. Below it, scribbled in Sharpie, "Respect. You don't ask for it. You show up and earn it." And that's exactly what he'd done. If this story moved you, even just a little, then don't forget to subscribe for more true stories about real people who show up when it matters most. And that next video waiting for you on screen, it was chosen just for you. Trust me, you're going to love it.